let's get into today's review of the Egg Pro SUP foil boards. I'm going to use SUP in there as a loose term because these actually have other uses than just SUP. But we'll get into that in a second and run over all the little bits and pieces that these boards are good for and maybe what they're not so good for. Right, sizes first. Two sizes to start with, 5'10", 23 inches wide. Scary, but not quite. I'll explain why not in a minute. And 90 litres. So this is the smaller one of the two. Whack that one down there. 6'1", 25 wide at 110 litres. So that's the big one. All right, stick this one back here. Let's put this one up here. Now, you notice in the name of the boards, the Egg Pros. The word pro, everyone kind of gets a little scared about it and thinks, oh shit, what the hell? I'll explain this a little better. This is not a board that you would buy as your first board. You know, we're not going to piss in everyone's pocket and say, this is the best board for everything and for everyone, because it's not. This is a specialized board. This is a board that, you know, if you've never done stand-up paddle before, you probably wouldn't buy this board as a first board. It definitely is not going to make your life easy buying this as a first up board to get into foiling. But if you have been SUP foiling for a while and you want to take that next progression and you want to take that next step in performance, welcome to the board that you want to be looking at. This is the next generation of performance, and it's going to take what you're doing now that next step further. And that's no exaggeration, it is just bloody beautiful to ride. So we'll go into what these boards are good for. Now, we've always been pretty proactive on our downwind foiling. We love our downwind foiling, both myself and Benny think it's probably the pinnacle of SUP foiling. And these boards were primarily made as a downwind foil board. And as that, they work bloody amazing. So, little differences you might notice. Obviously, 23 inches wide. You can't get away from it. It's narrow, but it's still actually quite stable for its narrowness. And, you know, once you go out and have a paddle around on it, you'll realise that 23 inches isn't that bad because most of the time, well, it should be all the time, you have this great big foil hanging off the bottom, which does add a lot of stability to your board. You know, if anyone has SUP foiled long enough and then jump back on their normal stand-up paddleboard without the foil, you'll notice how much the foil actually does. And that is why we can ride quite narrow boards. That narrowness helps in the popping up in the downwind ocean bumps. And that is part of why these boards are narrow, for sure, 100%. You'll also notice the volumes in this board are a little different to a lot of the other ones as well. We do run a flat deck because it's been so narrow, we need to keep the volume in the board. So if we could recess it, we would, but we still need, like for me, I need that 90 litres at about 77 kilos. It really does help. I like to be standing above the water, not under the water. So that's why we do keep the fairly flat deck. It still has a little slight recess in there, but not that much. Boxes are a fair way forward, helps pop up as well. We'll probably do another video later on with Benny to explain a bit more in the details of why this board works so well. But as a rough outline, it's fairly round up through the nose, flat through the midsection and right out through past the boxes. Of course, it's got to be flat past the boxes. Crazy if there's rocker in around the boxes. Obviously, the tail, we'll get into that a bit later, maybe with Benny. So, downwinding, perfect. Foil, SUP, yep. Also good for wind winging, very good. Obviously a little bit longer than your standard wind wing board, especially for us. Like we like our wind wing boards nice and short, as you can see in the background. So if I was wind winging, that's my 5-footer. If I'm downwind foiling, this is my board. In saying that, this does wind wing quite well as well. Very good as a light wind wing board. You know, what makes us get up and pop up in the ocean really, really well also works on the wind wing. So if you do want to, if you live in somewhere with super light winds and you wind wing a lot, that might be a really good option as well to look at something like this. Surf in the waves, bloody amazing, love it, very, very good. It's always a toss-up when I go out if I choose this or actually my wind wing board as my foil board of choice these days. You'll find that the narrowness feels really nice when you're turning, like you just seem to be able to lay it over on the rails. It's not that the rails do anything when you're surfing, but it just does feel like you can lay it over nicely being so narrow. The other little purpose of this board that separates it from everything else, and it's a little bit more so the 510 than the 6.1, is the ability to prone downwind. So there's a lot of guys who get into the proning who want a downwind as well, because look, downwinding in the ocean is as much fun as you can have. And this board will allow you to prone downwind. You're not going to go out in 10 knots and think you're going to get up prone downwind, but if you have somewhere where it's got a lot of wind, 100% be able to go out, paddles like an absolute machine. It still feels small enough when you're up on the foil that you don't need the paddle. So if your guys come over, haven't done any stand-up paddling, wanting to get into the prone downwinding, for sure, the egg is going to do the job as well. Yeah, that's the uses, like it really is a bit of an all-rounder for that guy who wants to take the next step in their foiling progression. Features of the board, well, let's say lack of features for one, no foot strap inserts as standard. When I'm downwinding, I like my boards light as possible, and to be honest, going downwind, I don't really feel like I need them. So as a standard for us, we have not put foot straps in. And saying that, if you pre-order boards through your importer or through us or wherever, you can get inserts put into the boards if you really do want them. So it's always an option, just you might have to wait a little while, but we all have to wait a bit, don't we? Nice big ledge handle, it's pretty standard on all our production boards. Definitely no handle on the bottom on this board, as it's not primarily a wing board, can wing, but not primarily a wing board, so we won't put the handle on the bottom. We don't want any drag at all. Outside of that, the constructions, these are going to be a fully molded board. They come in two constructions, your full sandwich, carbon elite, super lightweight, top of a line, where you're getting the lightest board possible and still very, very strong. And then our non-carbon full sandwich PVC as well. So we have two constructions options there, covers kind of both budgets realistically. Outside of that, yeah, look, take the next step, grab an egg, see you out there.